Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith. It is presented by Superbook Sports. Jared, happy Friday morning. How are we?
Happy Friday morning. Went axe throwing last night. Exciting stuff. Needed a little break from the sports world. It's been a stressful week. A lot going on. A lot of content, a lot of articles. Check out my Best Bets column, which is now currently live on Pickswise.com for the NFL this week. But besides that, pretty fun night out and about here in Sin City. How about yourself?
It was good. I sat on my couch, watched Thursday Night Football, which we actually had a lot of points being scored in that game. Amazon got some touchdowns to talk about.
Over City.
So that was exciting. 2 of them, albeit from the defensive game on the Cardinals side. But, that's neither here nor there. Also, some crazy news that kind of overshadowed Thursday Night Football in general. Christian McCaffrey officially traded from the Carolina Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers. Basically, the 49ers are sensing a weak NFC at this point, and they're going for it. And the Panthers are like, let's burn this thing to the ground and start over. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more trades coming out of Carolina in the coming days/weeks, but we will see. How does a guy like Christian McCaffrey make the 49ers better?
Yeah, trade deadline on November 1st. So, both Carolinas got, a couple weeks here to keep selling the farm. For San Francisco, I think it helps, but I think the move was overstated in terms of the odds. The odds moved last night, basically like the Niners traded for a quarterback. And again, I understand that Christian McCaffrey is not your average running back. He is definitely a unique specimen. He does a lot of different things. He catches passes out of the backfield. He's good in blocking schemes. He's got a rapport in that California area, went to college at Stanford, played his college ball at Levi Stadium. So there's a lot of, and I know they didn't play all their games there, but, he's very familiar with that part of town. It's a reunion of sorts. So I like the move from a nostalgic standpoint. I think it makes the Niners better. But I'm seeing here the Super Bowl odds move from 18-1 to 14-1. Again, that's a pretty big move. That's a relatively sizable move for one player out of a 53-man roster, especially at a position like running back, which tends to not have a huge, meaning on the outcome of most games. Most running backs don't move the needle as much. Now, I know Christian McCaffrey's not your average running back, but I do think I wouldn't be running to the window to bet the Niners just because of this move. If you like the Niners before this move, absolutely makes them better. But I do think it is pretty unique that we did see a pretty big move last night, and it shows the power of social media and the power of the running of the window to bet these teams and to bet these markets at this stage. So I think it's important, but I wouldn't go nuts over McCaffrey making the all-world difference for this Niners team. But an exciting time for the fans for sure.
Yeah, exciting time for the fans, an exciting time for Christian McCaffrey, who's going from the worst to one of the top teams in the NFL. I mean, if I were him, I'd be ecstatic at this point.
He was running in the plane.
Seriously, it's just crazy. So something to keep an eye on with the 49ers heading into this weekend. We got a lot to talk about today, though. Thursday night football reactions. We're getting into key week 7 games in the NFL. We have some college football week 8 predictions that we're looking at, some MLB postseason breakdowns. The Yankees backs are against the wall at this point, down 0-2 in the series. We'll get into that too. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports. Thursday night football reactions. It was a chaotic game. Andy Dalton, 3 interceptions in the first half, albeit 1, maybe 2, not necessarily his fault, but he single-handedly saved the Cardinals from drowning this season. We finally saw touchdowns on Thursday night football. The Cardinals end up on top of this one, 42-34. My over hit. Woo woo, you love to see that.
Nailed
Cardinals
it.
now 3-4, Saints 2-5 on the season. How good is this for Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals? Because every time they panned at Cliff Kingsbury's face on the sideline, dude looked like he was about to poop himself. He was he looked stressed the entire time. It's just crazy. I think he knows he's kind of on the hot seat at this point, but good for the Cardinals. They get the win. They played Andy Dalton because it was safe for the Saints. Maybe not necessarily, but we saw points being scored in a primetime game, so I'm pumped about that.
Yeah, this was a stone cold over game from the start. Saints got it first, scored a touchdown in the first 2 minutes on a big, deep pass. Great call by you on the over. Terrible call by me on the first half under. Terrible call by me on the Saints.
Not terrible.
No, that game was again, you're not going to get every game right. That game was a stone cold over from the start. I think the Saints probably cover if Dalton doesn't. And again, I didn't watch the game. I was throwing axes. But from the box score and from, what I'm looking at, I don't think the Saints played terribly, at least on offense. But when you give up 2 pick sixes in a span of 50 seconds, very hard to recover from that in the NFL. It's just, there's just not as many possessions in the NFL to make up for 2 defensive scores in a very short period of time. And it was like lightning strike. So once that happened, this game got completely thrown on its head in terms of, the whatever the normal routine and the schedule of a Thursday night football game is. Once you have 2 defensive scores in a span of a minute, none of the handicapping that we did after that matters. The game was completely thrown into one of those outlier situations. So, Saints came back, actually made it a game. They had an onside kick recovery to have a chance to tie it up on a Hail Mary. So I credit Andy Dalton for not completely going into a shell. He did throw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in the game. So maybe you can argue some of that was garbage time, but I do think it was positive that the Saints didn't just completely fall off a cliff. And again, you're right. You saw some of the frustration still and some of the angst between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, even though they had a big lead. They were arguing on the sidelines. It was bad. It's ugly. And I think this helps. Winning cures all. But I wouldn't be very bullish about the Cardinals going forward based on what I saw last night. They were aided by 2 defensive scores in 50 seconds. They probably won't have a defensive score for the rest of the season. Very hard to replicate that kind of production. So next week at the Vikings, we'll see. But I'm not sold on Arizona based on last night's win for sure.
Yeah, we saw Kyler Murray yelling at Cliff Kingsbury. I think at that time the game was only a 3-point game at that point, so they were getting frustrated with each other. And then we heard from Richard Sherman at halftime on the Amazon show say, once you get 1 pick or once you get 1 pick, then you're like, ooh, okay, it kind of motivates defense a little bit. And then you see it again and you get a pick 6. It's like, oh, okay, licking your chops a little bit. Then you see them do it again. He said as a defensive player, that gives these guys the energy that they want, that they're looking for it more, that they know that it's there, that maybe the quarterback is a little off kilter that day. So interesting game. It was a high scoring game, a fun game to watch. A lot of different storylines there, but again, it was overshadowed by the Christian McCaffrey news at the end of the day. We have a lot of key week 7 games. We're going to break down 3 of them quickly for you. We have the Colts taking on the Titans, an AFC South rivalry going up against each other. They played back in week 4, week 5. But the Colts have back-to-back wins after reigning supreme this past weekend. Matt Ryan played really well, 389 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. The Titans started the season 0-2. now won 3 straight games. They're coming off of a bye. Derrick Henry got into his stride in week 5, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is the Colts' 5th divisional matchup, Jared, in the first 7 weeks of the season. The schedule ain't pretty for them right now, but they're going to come into this game extremely motivated, especially coming off of a really good game that Matt Ryan had. Who do you think ends up on top of this one? The Titans right now laying about 2.5, 3 points.
You know, it just dawned on me too. The AFC South
What?
just does not want their games played at the end of the season. This is the second game between the Colts and the Titans, and the Colts and the Jaguars have also already played twice. The Colts only have one more divisional game, and there is, for the rest of the season. It's very, very strange schedule. Now, Tennessee plays both of their games against the Jags at the end of the year, and they play the Texans at the end of the year. But Indianapolis, after this week, has basically their entire divisional schedule behind them. Very unique.
After last season, Jared, week 18, they're probably calling the NFL, don't schedule us against the Jags week 18 because we want to know if we're going to make the postseason or not. Seriously.
Yeah, so instead they schedule them against the Texans. So what's worse, losing to the Jags to miss the playoffs, or losing to the Texans in week 18 to miss the playoffs? So again, we're a long ways from that. I do think Indianapolis is playing a lot better. Tennessee's off the bye. That makes things a little more interesting. They get a week to prepare. But again, we talked about this game on Pickswise Playbook. Please go check out Pickswise Playbook. It is currently live on the site. I watched some of it this morning before I came on. Tank and Lauren and myself. Very fun show. Had a blast. But this game specifically, it's all injuries. And there are several games this week where the injury report matters more than any trend or any matchup or any nugget that I'm going to drop on you. It just, if Kwity Paye and Shaq Leonard can't play for the Colts, especially Kwity Paye, Leonard returned to practice. It's a concussion / broken nose. You would think eventually he will play. It's not like a soft tissue injury where it's a hamstring. With Kwity Paye, it is a soft tissue injury. I think it's a knee or an ankle or some, lower body in some capacity. And that's a guy that is huge when it comes to stopping the run. I have a nugget here about how important he is at stopping the run. And let me see if I can find it. Here you go. Since Kwity Paye got hurt in the fourth quarter of the Thursday night game against the Broncos, the Colts have allowed 315 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on just 44 carries. That's 7.2 yards per rush.
Wow.
Before Kwity Paye's injury, only 3.1 yards per rush. Again, if Kwity Paye is 100% and playing, it's a massive difference for the Colts running defense. And what do the Titans do well? Who's the guy in the backfield that sets the tone for the Tennessee Titans? So I can't even really give you a straight handicap on this game until I know the status of those guys. And it's only Friday morning. We don't know. So to me, that is the entire handicap of this game, is whether or not Kwity Paye and Shaq Leonard are functional and healthy on that Colts defense.
They played back in week 4. The Titans had 3 sacks, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery. Jonathan Taylor is still banged up a little bit this week. I feel like this game is going to rest on Matt Ryan's shoulders if he can hold on to the ball. That's what this is going to come down to for me. The Titans have won 5 of the last 6 games against the Colts, so they definitely have their number. But I know the Colts played well last week. They're going to be building off of that momentum, so we'll see what happens. The team that didn't necessarily play well last week, the Denver Broncos, who the Jets, are coming in into town to altitude. They're looking to extend their winning streak to 4 straight weeks. They made Aaron Rodgers and the Packers look really bad last week. And that dude, Breece Hall, with 116 rushing yards, I love this rookie. Now you look at the Broncos side of things. Stop giving them primetime games. They are struggling scoring the football right now. Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett are not working well together at this point. Russell Wilson went 3 of 11 in the second half last week for 15 yards. There are 2 teams right now that are going in opposite directions. The Jets are riding the momentum. The Broncos are really frustrated, but the Broncos here still a 1.5 point favorite. The total is extremely low, under 40 at this point. Do you see the Jets going into Denver and taking advantage at altitude, extending their win streak to 4 straight weeks?
I don't. I sadly I do think this is a spot where I could see the Jets offense hitting a roadblock, and the roadblock is the Denver defense. Now, again, broken record, we don't know if Russell Wilson's going to play. I think he's going to
Yeah.
play. Injured hamstring, limited in practice through the first 2 days. Friday is the big day in terms of your status. We'll know a little more after the end of today, but I'll be honest. I don't know if it matters, but I think it does. And Russell is going to get a ton of heat. Just like the situation in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is going to get the heat, but in reality,
Mm-hmm.
it's a team collective effort. And I think with the Broncos, it is the offense. It's a team struggle. Russell Wilson looks bad. The offensive line has been shaky. The running game's fumbling it all over the place. Melvin Gordon can't hang on to the ball inside the 10-yard line. Javonte Williams is hurt. Nathaniel Hackett seems to be lost on the sideline. So, again, collective effort. But the Broncos, in my opinion, and I wrote this game, this game had a pretty prominent write-up in the column this week that dropped last night, early this morning. But I think the Broncos defense, like every time I watch.
I can't hear you, Jared. Second time in the last week that's happened.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, we'll talk about. Oh my God, you're hilarious.
My microphone is
a little aggressive with the mic.
I need to put my hands behind my back when I do a show because I literally am like a freaking wackadoo with how I carry my hands. All right, hands by my side. I'm sorry, friends. Every time I want to get on the Jets bandwagon in this game, in my mind, in my mental handicap, as I move my hands behind my back, I keep gravitating back towards the Broncos defense. And I keep thinking to myself, man, this Broncos defense is the best unit on the field. They will control the tempo in this game. And they will make life very difficult for Zach Wilson. First of all, Patrick Surtain didn't allow a reception in coverage to Mike Williams. And I know the Jets have some weapons, but I don't think any of them are more explosive and more physical than Mike Williams. And I think Surtain's going to shut down. They're going to, just completely just patrol the back end. They're going to turn Breece Hall into a more pedestrian runner, and they're going to control the line of scrimmage with Browning and Draymond Jones, who was in the backfield all night against the Chargers last Monday night. So I'm concerned for the Jets offense here. Now, maybe the Jets defense can hang around. They've been playing better. Sauce Gardner is on par with where Surtain's numbers have been. But I think that if you ask me the 4 units in this game, offense, defense, Jets, Broncos, I think the Broncos defense to me keeps, moving the needle, where the other 3 units are pretty pedestrian.
One thing that stands out to me is Breece Hall averaging 5.1 yards per carry on the season against, a Denver defense that is allowing 4.4 yards per carry. It's about the same. He could be carrying them to a victory here. I don't know if their passing game is going to get much done against Denver's secondary, but Breece Hall could be the magic piece of pie for a game like this for the New York Jets. I don't know who's going to win this game. The Jets are 5-1 against the spread on the road in their last 6 games, but the Broncos are also 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 head-to-head meetings between these two teams. So trends don't really tell you anything here. We'll see what happens come Sunday. Hopefully the Denver offense can get going a little bit, but right now it's going to be the Jets offense against the Broncos defense. That's going to be the deciding factor for this game. Last but not least, this game got a little bit more exciting because the Chiefs going up to San Francisco, taking on the 49ers, who now have Christian McCaffrey on their team. The Chiefs laying a couple points here in this one, but 2 teams that want to bounce back. The Chiefs obviously lost to the Bills last week. That was an exciting game. Patty Ice had 2 interceptions. The last one sealed the game. Now the 49ers lost to the Falcons, who no one thought was going to be 3-3 at the beginning of the season and tied for the top of the division with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the 49ers were shut out completely in the second half. They only had 50 yards on the ground. Jimmy G had 2 interceptions. These are 2 hungry teams. It's just really hard for me, Jared, to see Patrick Mahomes go into San Francisco and not get his Kansas City Chiefs team a win. He's too good. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, we talked about this game too pretty extensively on Playbook. It's again another extensive write up on Pickswise.com today in my column. Please read the column, guys. I spend hours writing these things. Please go read them. Um, this game is. I don't know how much Christian McCaffrey is really going to impact this game. I think it's
Yeah.
really hard to include him in your handicap. I think it's fair to say that the Niners offer slightly more upside because of it. But I'll be honest. What have we talked about all day? The only thing that matters in this game is Trent Williams playing, is Nick Bosa playing, is Travarius Ward playing, is Jimmy Ward playing, is Jason Verrett playing. I mean, these are massive pieces, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Williams is big on the offensive line, of course. I mean, he's, besides Andrew Thomas, the best tackle in the game right now. The defensive side of the ball is where I get concerned for San Francisco. There is a high probability that they are playing backups and third string corners against Patrick Mahomes. That's terrifying.
That's
It's
good.
absolutely terrifying, especially when you consider the Niners play a lot of zone. And unlike man-to-man, where it's like, okay, 5th-round rookie corner Samuel Womack out of Toledo, you're starting today. Go check up Juju Smith-Schuster. All right, a little bit of an easier task. But when you ask 5th-round rookie corner Samuel Womack out of Toledo or second-year guy Demondre Lenore, who's had, some moments this year of positive, but mostly bad, at least according to the PFF grades. When you ask guys like that to play in zone coverage and stay connected against Patrick Mahomes, it's very, very hard. Very tough ask. So what does the injury report for San Francisco look like on game day? Is that secondary back to full strength? Let's operate in a world where it is. Let's say the Niners get healthy this week. The line movement's telling me they might be. Gets to 3 because everybody bets Kansas City, and I expect everybody to bet Kansas City based on what I'm hearing from bookmakers this week. And then at 3, that's where we see the buyback on San Francisco. And now, even after the McCaffrey news, it moved to 2 last night. I don't think that's a move that really matters because, I don't know how much impact McCaffrey will have on this game. But I can poke holes a little bit in this Chiefs offense. I tried really hard because, I like to be contrarian. But the Chiefs offense in those big magician-like moments for Patrick Mahomes, the 10 drives that they've had tied, leading, or trailing in the fourth quarter, slim, tight games. They've only scored 3 times out of those 10 drives. Wow. And he's thrown 2 game-ending interceptions already this season. So again, Patrick Mahomes' numbers are fantastic. They're much better on later downs than early downs. And what do we say about early downs? More predictive. The later downs tend to be more volatile. He's the best passer in the league on 3rd and 4th down this year. He is a magician in those late spots. But the full drives and the early downs have been a little bit inconsistent, or at least a little bit inefficient based off of his standards. So I can poke some holes in the Chiefs offense. They've been fantastic. They lead the NFL in EPA per play. The Niners lead the NFL in EPA per play on defense. That's the unit. That's going to be the matchup here. Chiefs offense, Niners defense. Who's healthy for San Francisco? And how does Patrick Mahomes perform in those game-breaking moments late in the game? If it's tied or if the Chiefs are behind, can he use that magic to get over the hump?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Honestly, in this game, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win. But I'm almost leaning the over here. The 49ers are averaging 25.5 points per game at home. The Chiefs are averaging first in the NFL, 34 points per game on the road. And if you're going up against second, third string secondary in the 49ers, I feel like they'll be able to take advantage of it. I look at the total, 48.5, and just with the averages of both of these teams this season through 6 weeks, I mean, way over that. So I'm looking at the over for a spot like this. We're going to be talking a lot about NFL heading into this weekend. Let's chat a little baseball for a second. Take it to the diamond. We had our ALCS Game 2 last night. The Yankees, their backs are against the wall at this point. They're down 2-0 in the series, and the games have been close. Like, out of these 2 games, the Yankees were only outscored by 3 runs in 2 games, but it's felt like the Astros have kind of had a stronghold even in both of those games. And I know the Yankees, I mean, their last batter of the game, they could have come back. It was a 3-2 loss. Now they're heading back to the Big Apple, Game 3 tomorrow. Garrett Cole, they could be their saving grace on the mound. And if not, if they go down 0-3, that's not going to look very good for them. But Garrett Cole could give them a little life. He's really good, especially this postseason. This postseason, he's pitched 13 1/3 innings. did a really good job. How do you feel about the Yankees now heading back home? Does that give them a little bit of extra motivation to play for? Because being down 0-2, it can't feel too good in that clubhouse right now.
Yeah, I mean it's the ALCS. If you need extra motivation in the ALCS, then you're barking
Yeah,
up the wrong tree. I think I've said this for months. Go back and watch the shows from like June. The Astros are a better team. Period. End of story. They are a better team. They're more consistent on offense. They're much better rotation. Much better. Verlander, Valdez, better than Cole and Cortez. Period. End of story. And then, of course, once you get to the bottom 3 and 4, I think the Astros are a little better too. But the key with this series, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, it's really hard to blame the Yankees for this because it's not their fault. And there's actually a world where if it went differently, they wouldn't even be in this series probably. But because the ALDS got pushed back with the schedule and because the Astros swept, the rotations in the first 2 games of this series were
are
heavily,
different.
heavily in favor of Houston. Houston lined up their
Yeah,
1 and 2 starter at home against the Yankees 3 and 4. The Yankees had very little hope of stealing a game. Admirable that they kept things close. But when I look at the
mm-hmm.
numbers in the series and the numbers for the postseason, the Yankees are the second worst offense in the entire postseason, just behind the Rays. They have a lower, or in front of the Rays, they have a lower batting average than the Cleveland Guardians did, who scored like 1 run in like the whole series. Oh, Siri just yelled at me. Siri doesn't like the Yankees too much either. But
Yeah, it doesn't.
when you think about this series, that's why Siri yelled at me because I
Mm-hmm.
said series. But when you look at this series, now there is an opportunity for the Yankees to flip because, like I said, it was so one-sided with the pitching matchups in Houston. But now the Yankees get Cole Cortez at home. I could absolutely see the Yankees winning 3 straight at Yankee Stadium. The Astros
Yeah,
mentality should be win 1 game out of the 3 in New York. Win 1. Don't get swept. And then all they have to do is win 1 out of 2 at home to win the series. If you're sitting with an Astros AL ticket like we are, we've been sitting on this ticket since June, 4-1. You could make worse bets right now than the Yankees at 5-1 to win the series. You can make a very small wager, cover your risk, and basically be watching for free, risk-free for the rest of this series. I think the Astros are going to win the series. They're the better team. They've been the better team all year. They're deeper. They're more talented, I think, at the top of their pitching rotation. I would be surprised if the Yankees came back. But if you want to put a little nugget on the Yankees at 5-1 right now to cover your Astros bet, don't have a problem with it. But I think the Yankees will play better at home. But I still think the
they
Astros will win the series.
they need to stop striking out. They struck out 17 times in
That's who
game
they
1,
are.
13 times in game 2. But the thing is, they're like chasing these dirty pitches. It's like get the ball in play when the count is like 1-0 or
That's
0
not who the
1. Like
Yankees are.
those first couple of pitches are when they're not throwing his dirty stuff. When you get down in a count, that's when they're throwing the dirty stuff. And the Yankees have been chasing. Like they've literally been chasing the whole time. The Astros struck out 2 times in game 1, 6 times in game 2. Put the ball in play on the first couple of pitches. Swing the bat at some of
I
those
agree with
easier
you.
pitches before they start throwing the dirty stuff. But
I
we'll
agree
see.
with you.
Garrett Cole is going to be the saving grace for this team. We have NLCS Game 3 back in Philly tonight, 7:30 against the Padres. That series is tied up at 1-1. I'm sure we'll be breaking that down tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, Week 8, college football. It is on the radar. We have some games going on tonight, some big games going on tomorrow. 5 top 25 matchups this weekend, Jared. I know you're not on the show because you have your Fox Sports show tomorrow, so run through your college football Week 8 slate with me.
Yeah, I think it is worth mentioning. I mean, the Phillies Padres game is tonight, and people can bet on that. I am not betting the game personally. There's a hair of value, I would say, with the Nerfy if you can find it at -130 or higher. But I don't trust Ranger Suarez And Keith Schmelter actually wrote up the Yurfie for Pickswise.com this morning, and it was all on the Suarez side that he was nervous about with scoring a run in the first inning. I think the Padres win this game tonight. Just a hunch. I don't trust the Phillies. I just don't. I know it's been so impressive this run, and they're kind of a team of destiny, but I think the Padres have a little aura of that too. So I'm not personally betting the Padres-Phillies game tonight, but if you want the official Pickswise stance, state-run media says Yurfie and Padres. All right, college football. I like Clemson this week, and I know Mark Zinno wrote up Syracuse for the site, and I respect his opinion very much. I don't like the spot for Syracuse. I think this is a Clemson team that is going to be really pissed off after last week, especially defensively. They missed 24 tackles last week. I know they won the game against Florida State, but they almost didn't. And they let Florida State really go up and down the field. A lot of lengthy drives. Again, a lot of missed tackles. And I love this quote that the Clemson defensive coordinator, Nick Eason, said to the press this week. I'll read it to you. Quote, "At the end of the day, it's all about how bad you want it more than your opponent. It starts inside your heart. I'm not the Wizard of Oz or Jesus." Unbelievable line. Some things you got to be born with. Again, this is a Clemson defense that is arguably one of the most talented and deepest defenses in the country. They didn't lose a ton of talent. They did lose their defensive coordinator, Brent Venables, who's now the head coach at Oklahoma. But the scheme is still the same. And I think this Clemson defense is now going to kind of play down in talent. Like Syracuse's offense has been very inconsistent this year. Garrett Trader's played well, but oh man, the opponents that Syracuse has faced, their FBS opponents, are all outside of the top tier in offensive efficiency. Louisville, they had to shut down a mobile quarterback in that game. UConn, Purdue, who was without a bunch of their key players, really banged up. UVA was just terrible. Wagner, again, not an FBS team, doesn't even count. And then NC State without their starting quarterback, Devin Leary, it was a backup that played for Charleston Southern last year. So this is just a tough spot, I think, for Syracuse's defense. And for Syracuse's offense too. This is a massive step up in talent. So I'll take Clemson. I'll lay the 13.5. I like Oregon. I think this is a good spot for Oregon this week. UCLA, from what I'm seeing, is going to be the biggest public dog of the week. Everyone's going to bet UCLA. They're going to see the top 10 ranking and a +6 next to their name, and they're going to eat it up. And I think Oregon's got an edge in the trenches, especially their offensive line, who has only given up 1 sack all year. Bo Nix at home, I think, is a positive vibe against this UCLA defense that, again, has struggled at times this year and hasn't really faced a gauntlet schedule of offenses, Utah being the toughest one. And they gave up some points in that game to Utah. TCU, Kansas State. I kind of think K-State wins this game outright. I'm hearing Doppler radar vibes in this game. We're hearing 20 to 30 mile an hour winds in Manhattan, Kansas on Saturday night. And TCU's offense is heavily reliant on the passing game with Max Duggan. So be careful looking at TCU's numbers offensively from earlier this season and, carrying that over to Saturday night, because I think their offense might struggle a little bit. Kansas State's a very physical defense, probably the most physical defense TCU has faced all season. And TCU struggles to stop the run. And that's what Kansas State does well with Adrian Martinez at quarterback and Deuce Vaughn in the backfield. So I think the trenches, the physicality, we're going to talk about it with Clemson, talk about it with Oregon. And I think Kansas State's got that edge too. So I tend to lean on the physical edge in the trenches when we get to this stage of the season. So those are my 3 picks for this week. Clemson, K-State, and Oregon.
I look at a game like UCLA and Oregon, and I also kind of agree with you here on this one because Bo Nix has been playing like a really good dual threat quarterback, and he's good at home. UCLA's only game so far this season outside of LA has been against Colorado. This is like their first real road test. It's going to be tough for them. I feel like the Ducks crowd is loud. Oregon's offense has been really good since week 1 when they played here in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz against Georgia. So I like Oregon laying the points here too. I'm going to get that with you. And then with Kansas State and TCU, I think TCU's recipe for success with Quentin Johnson versus other teams' secondaries, like they're finding him at a consistent rate. They're being able to take advantage of the secondaries, and their defense has also done a really good job of preventing explosive runs all season. The Horned Frogs need to continue that recipe, mix it all up. They might remain undefeated for the rest of the season. We'll see. I don't know. But Kansas State getting the points, I like it. I think this is going to be a really, really close game. I think TCU is still going to win, but I feel like Kansas State can cover. I really do feel like it's going to be a close game. What about Alabama taking on Mississippi State? This is a lot of points. A lot of points. I know they're going to be pissed off, but that's a lot of points for them to be laying, especially against a team with a guy like Will Rogers and the pass game that they have going on at Mississippi State.
Yeah, I'm seeing here, one of the bookmakers sent out an update this morning on college football lines. It looks like a lot of people are loving the over in this game. I didn't look at this game. I mean, I think Alabama, bounces back and wins. I mean, they're favored.
Well, yeah, they win.
I don't really have anything for you here. I think Alabama is a lot better than what they showed last week. Defensively, they need to play better.
Yeah.
And I think they will this week.
Yeah. The other game I'm looking at is Texas. I kind of like them laying the points here actually against Oklahoma State. OSU, they haven't really said if Spencer Sanders has been practicing a lot or heavily practicing this week, so we don't know how he's going to look going into this weekend. I like Texas. I know they're vulnerable through the air, but again, with a guy like Sanders, shoulder injury that he's dealing with, even if he is playing, maybe he's not going to be at 100%. We saw that similarly with Russell Wilson. I don't think they're going to be as exposed as they usually are in the secondary, and I like Quinn Ewers healthy, ready to go. I like Texas laying the points here in this one. Okay, before we get into our play of the day, let's talk about Superbook Sports. Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. It's the best place to bet football this season. Download the Superbook app or visit superbook.com right now, and they're going to match your first bet up to $1,000, whether it wins or whether it loses. Plus, they already have lines up for every single NFL game for the rest of the season. It's the #1 voted sports book in Vegas, now available in the palm of your hand. Visit superbook.com right now to join. From superbook.com to pickswise.com, 3-star play of the day. Jared, who do we have today on the site?
Yeah, I got some NBA. A lot of NBA, actually. 4 games today on the card on pickswise.com. Matt Weisenfeld, wise guy, on Celtics Heat, Pistons Knicks, Kyle Lupus, Total and Nuggets Warriors, Philip Tomich, Suns Blazers ATS. So one quick nugget too about Oklahoma State. We didn't know about no one thought Spencer Sanders was going to play last week. Mike Gundy is really good at keeping his poker face. And then all of a sudden on game day, it's like, yep, here's Spencer. So really, really tough to handicap college football with these injuries. We get no information. And it's all the coaches with their poker faces at the press conferences. So be careful if you're basing a bet, until we actually get some definitive news with one of these guys, because you might think they're playing and then all of a sudden they're not, and vice versa. A lot of people got burned on that last week thinking Sanders would sit, and then all of a sudden he played, and Oklahoma State almost won that game. So that was a very interesting situation.
Yeah, they definitely keep that close to their chest. Oklahoma State does, and they're doing the same thing again this week. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. It is crazy. They're trying to get that leg up against their opponents, especially with some of these big games that are down the stretch right here. Week 7, week 8, week 9, week 10, we have some really, really good matchups too. So something to definitely keep in mind. Our best bets of the day, Gerard, who do you got for yours?
Yeah, we're doing a little college football today. Again, not the sexiest card. You know your boy. I'm not going to really dive into the NBA, or, I'm not going to really do much NHL until we get past the football hurdle. My brain is completely locked in on football. So we will go to Bowling Green, Kentucky. Murfreesboro is in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee State. We'll go to Bowling Green, Kentucky. We'll give you Western Kentucky laying 1.5 tonight against UAB. So the ratings I look at, there are 3 rating systems that I follow pretty religiously in college football that have had a really good season against the spread. And all 3 of them have this game at over a field goal. One of the rating systems has this game at Western Kentucky -9. So I think we're getting some value here at -1.5. And then you dive into the numbers a little bit and you see that UAB really hasn't played anybody. They haven't faced a Power 5 team all season. They're 0-2 in their road games. And their wins this season, Charlotte, Middle, Georgia Southern, Liberty, all bad offenses. Western Kentucky can sling the rock. Austin Reed is 5th nationally in passing yards per game. This Western Kentucky team is relentless on offense. They spread it out, they throw it down the field, and they make you work on defense. And I think this UAB team has talent. They have, skill guys on the defensive side of the ball, but I don't think they've faced a level of offense like they are going to face tonight. And again, they haven't really been tested, especially on the road. So true home game. We'll see what the weather's like. Actually, we'll check the Doppler radar in Bowling Green right now. UAB, Birmingham, going up to Kentucky. We'll see. It's an average weather tonight, 50 degrees, no precipitation, no wind. So that shouldn't be a factor. But the road game vibes for UAB, I'm not feeling tonight. So we'll take Western Kentucky -1.5. We'll hope that Austin Reed has a big game, and we'll hope that we get you home here with the Toppers.
Absolutely. All right. I am taking it to the ice because we got to get some hockey bets in there. Now, I'm talking about the Colorado Avalanche right here in the back. I'm not betting a side, even though if I were betting a side, now we have puck line in this spot against the Seattle Kraken. I rarely bet an under for Colorado Avalanche games.
Oh, wow.
But it's enticing. It's at plus money, and I'm betting under 6.5 in this game. The Kraken are actually playing pretty well on the defensive side of things. And I feel like the Avs defense is usually overshadowed because of how good their offense is. But they play defensive fronts in the entire league. A lot of times people don't pay attention to that because of how fiery their offense is. The Avs have 17 goals for the first 4 games of the season, even though they're 2-2 on the season. But a lot of that has been because of their power play and their special team scoring. They're scoring at an over 50% rate right now on the power play. Now, there is going to be regression there. I don't want to see regression. I like that. But analytics say you're not going to be scoring 50% on your special teams throughout the entire season. 5-on-5, they're only averaging about high danger scoring chances per game, and they're only scoring on 6-7% of those. Now, you look at the Seattle Kraken on their offensive side of things, they have the 3rd worst shooting percentage in the league at 5.3%. So with their offense, I know they've scored some goals now, but with their offense kind of, maybe not taking advantage or having the best shooting percentage in the league, I feel like going up against a cinder block that is the Avs defense, it's going to be really tough for them to score some goals. So I feel like the Avs are going to win this game. They're going to do it by 2 goals, but I really do like the under just because of how good the defensive units are on both teams. I mean, when you have Cale Makar and Devon Toews as your top defensive pairing, it's going to be tough to score some goals and get past them. And the cool thing about the Avs too is they defend as a 5-man unit. They really do. Their forwards get back. It's really tough for teams to score against them. So, I see some regression in terms of the Avs power play. I see some, I see both sides on their defensive end stepping up, and I like the under, and you're getting it at plus money, plus 104. Why not? Lock it in, baby. Let's go. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Laura Jabara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's get in. Let's bet it.